Tim, I want you to know I could have taken your chair, but I didn't.
Well, thank you.
I wouldn't let her.
The tie scared him off.
That's right. Yes.
Maybe that's true.
That's what we were just talking about.
That's what we were. Seems like.
That's what we were just talking
Otherwise,
about. There's like
They got a place for the applicants to sit.
Right.
Well,
There's a lot of
is
us.
two okay?
Sure.
We need one, two. Let me second sit out here.
So it'll be nice and cozy.
I think we just have enough people.
Same
No,
table.
it's the same number of tables.
So not everybody actually shows up.
I think we just have a full committee.
Kristen?
There's supposed to be another chair.
Aaron, you ready?
2 more chairs on that side. Aaron normally sits for Amy's out.
The body of people are.
should we start the music over?
Pull one away, let's go. Let's do this.
2 seconds.
Really? Get more. Trying to figure out why you're sitting out there.
Put a chair over here.
Yeah, come on up here.
Chair over here.
Next is Bill.
Tim, can you slide down a little bit and make some room right there for?
Maybe still 3 of you guys now, huh?
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December TRC meeting. First item on our agenda is to approve the meeting schedule for 2017. So has everybody had a chance to look at that? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
July 5th. We can hold on to that date.
Probably not. What, is there an alternate date someone want to offer for July 5th?
Or do we want
We're only off on the 4th, right?
to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or on Tuesday. That would be Tuesday.
And move forward with it, and as we get close to it, we can amend it at maybe a week, month in advance or so. All right, okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I made the motion.
Motion by Tim Brown, is there a second? Second by Rita. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Meeting dates are approved. Next item is to review the minutes from the last meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes, or any additions or corrections? If not, is there a
Motion to
motion?
approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Tim Brown, second by Matt Carpenter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. Minutes are approved. We have 9 items on the agenda this morning. As you come forward, please give us your name and who you represent, and then we'll go forward from there. We'll try to do this as quickly as we can while doing it thoroughly. With that, the first item on our agenda is the Seaside 17 replat. Renee?
This is a replat actually of Seaside 10. This is 5 lots to be reconfigured with a common area for Lot 2 proposed with future land use of residential preservation. This is within the Seaside DRI. It's located at the intersection of County Highway 30A and Natchez Street. We have a few outstanding comments. One of the biggest comments that we had is that we thought that the common area for Lot 2 should be an easement, not a common area, being it's not going to be common to all of the subdivision. Also, we need a renaming of Seaside 17. Seaside 17 actually exists on another plat. So, you got any questions, Darryl?
Good morning. I'm Darryl Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates.
Good morning, Darryl.
Good to see everybody all at once. At any rate, no, I went through the comments yesterday evening. I really have no questions whatsoever. I think we can comply satisfactorily and resubmit by Friday, Monday latest. So,
Okay. Anybody from the public have any comments or questions on number 1, Seaside 17 replat? Anybody have any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, what's the wishes of the TRC?
I'll make a motion that we move this forward to the Board of County Commissioners once all comments have been met and we've received a Mylar fully signed with all signatures required.
Okay, motion by Renee, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mac. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell.
All right.
All right, number 2 in our agenda is C38 Place. Tim, you want to go over this one for us?
I'm not sure anyone's here from Choctaw Engineering.
That's all right. Go forward.
This is a major development order application submitted by Choctaw Engineering requesting approval to construct 122 units apartment complex on 28.25 acres with the future land use of infill. It's located on the east side of County Road 393 South, north of Rena Arnett Lane, and south of Shannon Lane. There's a number of outstanding comments. Planning has 17. Environmental has 5, engineering has 15. The compatibility analysis is incomplete. One of the bigger issues is they're asking for density bonus, and we don't think they qualify, so if they don't qualify, they're gonna have to, reduce this. The base density for infill is 4 units per acre, so that would give them 113. So if they can't have the bonus, they're gonna have to go from 122 to 113.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Tim?
Density bonus or compatibility?
No, they, actually that's a good question, if infill even allows for bonus, but they're asking for bonus. They show points for providing a greenway, points for the community meeting, which under the point system gives them 1 additional unit per acre, but actually we didn't sit down and determine whether infill was eligible for bonus or not.
All right. Any more questions, Tim? Anyone here on behalf of Choctaw Engineering? All right. Don't see one here. Anybody from the public would like to address number 2, C38 Place? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward.
Yes, who's the developer, proposed developer?
Tim, do you know that?
We barely hear.
Yeah.
I didn't even said that.
Just 1 second. We'll check for you. The engineer of record is Choctaw Engineering is the engineering of record.
The owner's C38 Holdings LLC. That's all the information I have.
The only information we have, ma'am, is that the owner is C38 Place LLC. That's all the information we have. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
They're out of Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay. Since the engineer is not here, do you want to wait till and see if they come during the meeting, bring it to the end of the meeting, or you want to continue it? What's the wishes of the TRC?
Either way is good by me.
You know, let's just hold it to the end of the meeting in case they do show up, and then if not, we'll address it at the end of the meeting. Okay. All right. Moving on to number 3, Emerald Coast Business Center West. Bob?
Mr. Chair, this is a major development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering requesting approval for a 2,700 square foot of office space. It's on 1 Business Center Drive off of US Highway 98 on 2.75 acres, and the future land use is Coastal Center.
All right.
Jamie Eubanks with Jenkins Engineering. Bob got me the comments yesterday. Everything's pretty straightforward. Notes, a few typos. I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions of Jamie? Nope. Seeing none. Anyone from the public have any comments or questions on number 3, Emerald Coast Business Center West? Any comments or questions from the public? All right. Jackhammer?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Taking out bollards?
Okay.
Yeah.
Bollards.
All right. Okay. What's the wishes of the TRC?
I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the Emerald Coast Business Center West major development order once staff comments are addressed and project is resubmitted for review.
Okay. Motion by Bob. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sam. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We'll give it to him. We got, yeah, leave it open. That's good, that's good. Number 4 on our agenda is Rolling Dunes. Again, Bob?
Mr. Chair, this is a major development order application by JP Engineering LLC requesting approval of a mixed-use development that's going to include retail and restaurant. The project is located on the northeastern corner of South County Highway 83 and West County Highway 30A on 1 acre with a future land use of village mixed use.
Okay, your name, sir?
Tracy Jerningham with JP Engineering.
Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, how's everybody?
Good.
Most of the comments were pretty straightforward. We do want to get some clarification on the parking requirement from planning. The parking exception that we were requesting was that the parking to the rear of the building, so we get 20% reduction. It's on a corner lot, so we have 2 road frontages, and the parking is opposite of both of those road frontages. So, you know, whether all of the parking is to the rear of the building depends on which side of the building you're at, and that's kind of a big deal on our parking count. So
Right.
We discussed this at pre-app, and it was felt that you picked the one side that was considered the front, and then everything, all the parking had to be behind that to count for that
Right.
reduction.
So what we're saying is they didn't qualify for that reduction.
Yes.
Okay.
because of the parking around both
Right.
sides.
Yes.
Okay. That's the only thing that really jumped out, so we're gonna need to readdress that if that's the case. That would make it so that any corner lot really can't have parking but on one side of the building to get that parking reduction, my understanding that.
Right, was that discussed also during the peer review process as well? Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay,
We discussed that it has to be 100% behind the building
right.
on 30A.
And we got 2 38 quarters,
Yep.
83 is a part of the 38, scenic quarter also.
So that's why we felt that it didn't get that eligible for the bonus.
Okay.
You did see that we feel like more of the site is subject to the preservation requirement?
We did see that.
Okay.
The Zurich hammock. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
really the only major question we had.
Okay. All right, anybody from the public have any comments or questions on Rolling Dunes? Anybody from the public?
Notice, it looks like it's the northwest
It is the
corner,
northwest corner.
Hmm.
so
Okay,
you might want to change
okay.
the ad.
Yes, had to run a half too.
All right, seeing no comments from the public, is there a motion from the TRC?
I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve Rolling Dunes major development order once staff comments are addressed and the project is resubmitted for review.
Okay, motion by Bob, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vivian. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, number 5 on our agenda is Musset Bayou subdivision. Again, Bob? Bob, you've been busy, haven't you?
Mr. Chair, this is a major development order submitted by Jenkins Engineering requesting approval for a 31-lot single-family subdivision. The project is located from US Highway East to north on Musset Bayou Road, approximately 0.9 miles on 7.5 acres with a future land use and neighborhood infill.
Okay, Jamie?
Jamie Eubanks, Jenkins Engineering. Again, Bob was kind enough to get us these yesterday morning. Reviewed them, didn't see anything that jumped out, any true concerns.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions of Jamie? Seeing none from the staff. Anybody from the public have any comments or questions on Musset Bayou subdivision, number 5, Musset Bayou subdivision? All right, seeing no comments or questions from the public, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the Musset Bayou subdivision major development order once staff's comments are addressed and the project is resubmitted for review.
Okay, motion by Bob, is there a second? Second by Mac, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, number 6 on the agenda is the retreat at Miramar plat. Again, Bob.
Mr. Chair, this is a plat development order application submitted by Wadley Construction LLC, requesting the approval of the plat of the 27 lot retreat at Miramar subdivision consisting of 4.61 plus or minus acres with future land use, a neighborhood infill. There's a little history here. There was changes made to the drainage, and they had to do a minor DO amendment. That DO has been issued. I think it was picked up last week. So they're gonna go ahead and now finish with the platting of this. So that's just a continuation of the plat.
Okay. Yes, sir. Your name?
I'm Shannon Clatchy.
Morning, Shannon.
Good morning. It's a wonderful day.
It is.
Well, Mr. Garanti has sized it all up. It's, I think it's ready to go. It's been cooking for the past 10 years. It's
About done, right?
It's about done. Right? Basically, we have the plat comments addressed, made a new set of plans for anybody's review. I got 5 sets. My one concern is, you said there was another DO issued recently.
It was in my comments to add that number, but I'll send you the DO that, all the DO changed was what you're submitting.
Okay. Because I have a DO it starts out with 13, so the new DO starts out with 16?
Yes.
Okay. That, I'd have to change that. But
And
it's-
I made a comment in my comments to change it to that number. Or I'll add that number in there also, but I'll get it to you. And also, all the fees have been paid, everything except the recording fee.
Okay. And all the rec plat fees go to Melissa Thomason for her review as well. Okay. All right. Shannon, any more questions of us?
I have none.
Okay. All right. Anybody from the public have any comments or questions on number 5, Mustard Value subdivision? I'm sorry, the retreat at Miramar plat. Anybody from the public have any comments on number 6, the retreat at Miramar plat? All right. Seeing none, what's the wishes of the TRC?
One question, in the previous action says it was approved for a 33 lots subdivision, but they're only plotting 27 lots? Is that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve pending the satisfactory answer of staff comments and resubmittal.
Okay. Motion by Bob. Is there a second? Second by Rita. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
All right, number 7 on our agenda is Lakeview subdivision. Bob again. Wow, it's the Bob show.
Mr. Chair, this is a major development order application submitted by Interlight Engineering Corp. requesting approval for a 57-unit single-family home subdivision with 2 commercial lots on Business Center Drive off of US Highway 98 on 19.72 plus or minus acres with a current future land use, a small neighborhood and conservation residential, 2 development units an acre. I'd like to make a note that it's in the bottom corner. The southwest corner is the conservation residential 2 development unit land use, but they are currently in the process of going through the small scale amendment process to change the future land use to small neighborhoods so they can place the 2 neighborhood offices there. So this would be pending the final approval, the small scale amendment. The client is aware of that. Also contacted the Public Works yesterday. They are going to build a walkaway path around the lake and cross over the mosquito control district boundary. And there was discussion about maybe having the applicant help extend it through the park, but I got a pretty in-depth email yesterday saying that as long as they build that bridge over and go over to mosquito control and come a little bit off, that'll be okay, and the county will be able to pick that up because of the placement of the fields. They'd have to ride across the fields. So that issue has been addressed. That's all.
Okay. All right. Your name, sir?
Curtis Smith, Interlight Engineering.
Good morning, Curtis.
I had just a couple of questions on some of the comments. Most of it is technical, kind of rushed the grading there at the end, so there are a couple grading busts you guys picked up on.
all that's been fixed since then. First question was in regards to the transportation. The one comment we got was that proposed developments generating 50 or more trips will be required to submit a comprehensive transportation concurrency analysis. My question really is, what in addition to what we submitted would be needed? Because what I submitted is pretty much the major analysis requirements. It had a title of minor on it, but it was a major, I just didn't change the title.
Yeah, I can't remember, did you include like existing trips on all the roadway segments? It's just a little, it's more in-depth, traffic study than, you know, the typical just trip generation. So it incorporates the, existing trips on 98, Thompson, you know, going down to 38, Allen Loop and all that.
I think it did have all the
I think it
existing
goes
on there.
out a little bit further.
Maybe we should talk offline to get a little more clarification. And because I think it does have all that. I just wanted to make sure we didn't see minor and then it's not right, so didn't review it at all.
No, I looked at it, but
Okay.
we can discuss further if you'd like.
Yeah, let's, I guess, pull that offline. The second question in regards to transportation was, if everything is as we think it is, we don't have the fee from you yet, but I ran the numbers, it looks like it's gonna be $83,000. The access road we talked about before, I'm trying to find out if there's a way for us to recoup the cost of that public improvement with the transportation fees. Specifically, I've already put the price on the walkway and the bridge crossover, it's about $35,000 worth.
I think what we've done before in the past, if those improvements mitigate some of the traffic, then there is a possibility of having that be credited to your prop fair share payment.
Okay.
We need documentation for that. We can talk about that later. We need some pretty significant documentation to reduce that fee.
Would they still maintain the path? I mean, you're gonna waive the fee and it's gonna be a public.
I'm not saying we waive the fee. I say
that
there's a potential we could, depending on
credit.
the documentation we get, and also in meeting, you know, is it gonna actually mitigate the traffic, and it's gonna, you know, I know before we've done that for turn lanes. Didn't we do that for 30 Avenue?
We did, typically those are done for operational improvements required by the DOT driveway
Right.
connection from that.
But
Or
we're
other
also,
operational improvements that,
Right.
that Public Works identified.
Right.
but we were also gonna use the total area as per MAC from the walkway and that to help meet their 5% rec, so they'd be getting double credit if they
Well,
did.
we're way over on the rec fee
Yeah.
requirement anyway. It's not even close on that. It's more of just the cost of the bridge and all that. You know, we're building it to the public standards. It's gonna be a pretty
Right.
beefy bridge.
As far as that goes, what I suggest is that if you are wanting to explore the potential of getting credit, I would submit to us, you know, your documentation for that, and then we'll look at it internally. And if it does, if it can be credited, it will. If we can't, we won't.
Okay.
That's pretty simple.
Uh,
But there are some very detailed things we have to approve first before we can credit anything.
So who's the best to talk to on those questions? The code doesn't have anything, you know, we don't have multimodal yet, hopefully we're
Mhm.
getting there, but we're talking about a bike and pedestrian route that cuts off about a mile of the trip between Thompson Road and Helen McCall, which obviously probably will cut down some traffic, but we have no guidance. It's
Mhm.
something we're gonna have to develop.
And this is pedestrian only?
It's pedestrian, it's bike and,
That's gonna be more difficult.
yeah.
Be a lot more difficult probably.
Right,
I would
one of
probably
the
tell you.
problems is right now, it's a path to a dead end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you cross the bridge, nowhere to go yet.
Because of all the ones that I recall, we only done a couple of them. Mac, you recall, they were all mitigating, you know, roadways and those kind of things.
There
They're
at
actually moving
crossings,
trips.
Yeah.
there's a left turn
Yeah.
lane,
Once
you
you-
get credit for a left turn.
Yeah,
lane.
once you get away from that, getting into pedestrian stuff, it's gonna be very unlikely that's gonna be allowed. We'll look at it, but it'll be very unlikely.
Okay, well, we definitely like to explore with you, if you guys wanted to look at, as we get into multimodal in the, you know, in the county.
Right.
It's obvious that the public will use that instead of getting in a car to drive to the park.
Right.
That's what we hope.
So we don't. The next question I had was actually for Sammy. I've got a comment that the project does not meet the fire hazard requirements. I did this based on NFPA's latest one for 400-foot, or I'm sorry, 800-foot spacing is what they allow now. 400 foot is what I used. What's the hydrant spacing you're looking for? Okay, I used 400, so we should be good. We just need to show radio on the hydrants? Yeah. Okay.
It's actual travel distance, not line of sight.
Correct. Okay. The county JS had a comment that doesn't look like we meet requirements for duplicate or similar road names, but they didn't state the road. Does anybody happen to know what that is?
I asked him, he said that you will have to contact his office and they will review it, but they said a number of them will most likely have to be changed.
So the GIS, who's?
I will send you the contact information.
That is,
And the last question I had was for the, we submitted, you've got some questions on mosquito control. We submitted the, we're in the process of doing all the DP wetland permitting. I'm trying to remember, is the final DO not issued until all those permits are done, or is it contingent?
Subject to,
Okay.
you can't start construction until you deliver all those permits, but we issue the DO conditionally.
And that's all the questions I had.
Joseph, you had a question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is a designated drainage easement for us to access around here on your detention area. Is that it?
Well, there's two things. We've got the public, the 20-foot public access easement, which is an 8-foot wide asphalt, which is the same as the roadway pavement section. It's very heavy duty, so you guys could drive on that. To access through there, we've got access through here. We've got plenty of access points. I believe that's an 8-foot concrete wall.
The landscape plan, what are y'all thinking about? I didn't see that.
You know, that's something I was going to talk to Bob or Trouble Rich, Dewberry, off the line about the landscape plan. We're actually going to save all the mature trees that are there now because it's extremely dense. They've asked to itemize, but there are hundreds, maybe thousands of trees out there that I really don't want to try to itemize them, but they're probably 50-foot tall pines and all kinds of stuff.
Y'all want to try to leave?
It's holding the bank up. We're going to leave all of that to
All right.
keep the banks holding up.
That's all we had.
All right, any questions of Curtis?
And, one other statement, the Public Works they didn't put it in the email, but I got a call later, that if you're proposing, like you said, at some point, like if the park closes to lock those gates, they would like to see what you're proposing for signage for the gate on your plans.
Okay. The public part of it will never close. It's only on the north side where the
entrance into the subdivision?
Into the subdivision.
From the entrance into the subdivision will be, but the public access does not have a gate.
Okay, I thought we
it's
said
always
that
open.
you were gonna also close that at some time.
There'll be another gate that fence that runs along the north side of the public access will actually die off into the lake with a gate there so that people can't get out there where the mechanical equipment is for the aerators and fountains. But they can, if they want to walk in the grass, they can still get around there.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, anybody from the public have any questions or comments on Lakeview subdivision? Number 7. Yes, ma'am.
Just a point of clarification, because I've read several different things here. So 57 single-family homes, approximately 3 per acre. And what are the 2 commercial buildings? And are they going to be fronting Thompson Road?
Yes.
And what are they?
More than likely, real estate office for now, maybe
What kind
interior
of
office.
office? I mean, just like,
Very small, couple of people office buildings is,
but to be leased or to be sold, you know, could be anybody in there, attorneys or doctors or?
possibly.
Okay, not related to the neighborhood, in other words.
We don't really know yet, you know, That's something that comes in the future. Our clients are actually here, but I don't know that they've even determined, probably real estate offices for now.
But wouldn't they have the potential to be leased out?
Sure.
I mean, and as long as the use was an allowable use in that category?
And I guess that's the point, is it an allowable use to have that adjacent to the residential?
Yeah, we actually are required to have commercial.
Why?
It's a requirement of the land use category to have a certain small percentage of non-residential.
5% actually. We
That's
don't,
bizarre, because there's no commercial up there, it's all residential, so why would you suddenly introduce something that's not even there?
Because our comprehensive plan and our land development code require it, if you want to develop in this land use category, you have to have a mix of uses. And in this particular case, they've chosen office as the least intrusive use that would meet the requirements of the land use category it's in and still be compatible with the neighborhood.
Yeah, that makes no sense, but I guess it is what it is.
Thank you. Ma'am, your name, please? What's your name? Okay. You get that, Gary? Okay. All right, seeing no more comments from the public, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve pending the successful answering of staff comments and a resubmittal, and also with the condition that the development order cannot be approved unless of the small scale amendment is approved.
Okay. Motion by Bob, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sam. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Curtis. All right, moving down to number 8 on the agenda, the Point Washington apartment entrance. Bob?
Mr. Chair, this is a minor development order application submitted by Mr. William Pope requesting approval to build the entrance and landscaping for the Point Washington apartment complex. The project makes up 2.09 plus or minus acres of the whole parcel, and with a future land use of neighborhood infill.
Okay. Mr. Pope, good morning.
Good morning. I don't have any comments other than we'll get with Mr. Sanchez right after this. That's the only one I saw, but I'm not even sure why we're here, but we're going through the TRC again. We have not changed anything from the original TRC approval,
Right.
just so everybody knows that. And we'll
Right.
clarify whatever we have to.
Right, I think the reason why you're here is because it's on the scenic corridor. In any
Well, we
project.
want to get in the DRB.
Right.
That's our
Exactly.
last obligation.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Pope?
I do have one comment, and I think some of the reviewers also made the comment. Since you provided the whole site plan package in your packet, it was kind of confusing, and I've received a number of calls. Do you think that we could kind of highlight just the area that's looking, because I was getting some comments about the apartments themselves, and I had to tell them that wasn't being addressed. So could we kind of?
I brought that for Mr. Sanchez this morning, but I will submit that to you too.
That's all right.
And that was in the original TRC approval, were the large-scale plans.
Yes.
I didn't think we had to go through that again, but we'll correct that.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Pope? All right. Anybody from the public have any comments or questions on number 8, Point Washington apartment entrance? All right, seeing none, what's the wishes of the TRC? Bob?
I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the proposed Point Washington Apartments minor development order pending the resolution of all outstanding comments.
All right, motion by Bob, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mac, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries.
And just for point of clarification, this is only the entrance portion.
It's only the walls at the entrance.
The entrance, the initial drive, landscaping within the scenic corridor. We're not reviewing the apartment complex.
That's what, I think that's what
No,
Bob was
we're-
referring to,
We're
too.
way out of that. I mean,
Yeah.
we're beyond.
But just for the
400 feet.
benefit of the public.
Yeah.
The apartment complex has already been approved. It substantially resides outside of the scenic corridor.
That's correct.
But the entrance is within, and that's why we're having to go through this process, because we didn't do that when we went through the major
I agree with that, of
development.
course.
And that's what was the confusion, is it's the whole parcel. As you
Right.
see, it was identified as the whole parcel.
Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you, Mr. Pate, appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, number 9 on our agenda is the Seacroft subdivision plat. Rita?
Yes, this is a plat development order application submitted by Mirror Corporation requesting approval to plat the 5 residential lots on 2.5 acres with the future land use of low-density residential. The project located south of Highway 98, east of County Road 393, south of Seacroft Drive. The subdivision development order was recently approved. The plat has a few comments. They are mainly housekeeping items, nothing major.
Okay.
Good morning again. I'm Shannon. Yes, ma'am, we've addressed the comments, for the saying they're not so monumental, it's just some clarifications.
Yes.
Those are all addressed, plat's ready to go, that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Are is the plat rec fee based on the 2016 certified roll?
I do believe, but I can double check.
And the rec plat fee calculations need to go to Melissa Thomason for review, right? Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody from the public have any comments or questions on number 9, Seacroft subdivision plat? Got lots of hands out there. Just kidding. All right. Seeing none, what's the wishes of the TRC?
I make a motion to approve the Seacroft subdivision plat, subject to all comments and condition being met, and move it forward to the January 10th BCC meeting.
Okay. Motion by Rita, second by Jason. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right. All right, going back to number 2 on our agenda, I think that's the...
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Bring us to Chapman Engineering here now, so we'll go back to number 2. Thanks, Joe. Mark. Need that?
I got a copy.
Okay, I'll keep it. All right, let's see, go back to that and let's see, Tim.
Mark, this is what you have to follow for the compatibility analysis.
Tim, you wanna go through it? Oh, we've already gone through this, haven't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Whatever questions Mark has.
Yeah.
But I think, we didn't discuss this at the peer review, but I think Mark hit the nail on the head. I don't think infill is eligible for density bonus. Density is determined through the compatibility analysis. It's the quarter-mile study area. Because the base is 4, but it's up to 8, depending on the quarter-mile study area.
It's based on the compatibility.
Yeah, right, the compatibility. And that's why that asks for density, the highest, the lowest, and the average in the quarter-mile study areas.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes. So in lieu of density bonus, we just use compatibility to determine.
Yeah, you have to determine what the density within the quarter-mile study area is. And
I have a quick question
I
for
don't
you.
know what it is.
If you read the LDC, it says infill is for properties less than 10 acres. This is a 30-acre piece of property. I'm just curious, why is this infill at all? This is,
We ask questions.
been doing
like
this a
that
long
every-
time, and this is kind of one that's
Well,
raised
but
up my head on.
these are 3 separate parcels that are 10 acres each.
Okay.
So the land use category, the acreage would work for the individual parcels. It just
Okay.
happens to be being developed together under one project.
I see what you're saying. I'm so curious as to why it's infill.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
don't say
not-
whether it's right or wrong.
I'm not arguing the
And
technical
Mark-
part about it.
I
It's
don't
just,
think there's anybody alive that knows.
Yeah, that was cited in 1996, which I don't
Yeah.
think anybody was here at the time.
all right.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure if maybe it'd been a land use change.
Yeah, it was
on
part of our
wouldn't it?
discussion in peer review. We were asking the same thing, why this was infill.
It makes it very difficult to perform a compatibility analysis when I'm looking at the surrounding uses, and most of it's vacant and state land or
industrial.
or residential, or commercial, or multifamily. I'm having a hard time identifying what I'm supposed to be compatible with. And
Well, and that-
how I establish my densities based on the fact that if you look around on the map, there's not a whole lot there.
No, I mean, those townhomes and some residential is about it. That's why we're not sure you're gonna be able to get more than 4. Until you do the analysis, we don't know, but there's so little residential in that area.
But I will tell you, that's a subjective analysis that the board will decide, basically.
From a planner's perspective, though, that vacant and industrial can lend itself towards greater densities. I mean, if you look at it from a, you know.
Intensity standpoint.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So you need somebody that understands that, to prepare that analysis.
It can be a good thing. That's
Yeah.
not
It's a good
surrounded by,
No, I understand. I mean.
a good thing for your client.
In the past, the way I've approached it is if it was vacant, we would assume that it could be maximized out, so thus a vacant piece of property actually has more value density-wise than a developed piece of property.
Right.
Which doesn't make any sense at all. And that's the logic behind it. Okay. All right, so is there anything else?
No, just any questions you had on the comments.
Yeah, and I apologize for being late, but I got
That's
the
okay.
comments late yesterday afternoon, and I was actually in my office this morning trying to go through them all and try to at least be prepared for this meeting.
No problem. Go ahead.
The first one, and this seems to be the biggest issue regarding this piece of property, is it has a unnumbered A zone on it.
Mhm.
And the comments say we have to do provide a base flood elevation.
For that area of the unnumbered A, yes.
Okay, do you understand what it takes to determine a base flood elevation?
Well, there's if you look in our code, there's a couple different methodologies in there.
Yes?
Because one is to do 3 feet above what is it?
The highest adjacent
The
grade.
highest adjacent grade.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And I believe you guys were gonna meet that.
Well,
Through your finished floor
Yes,
elevations.
and then some.
So,
Yeah, and Bill, I did get Bill's comments early in the process, and he and I have already spoken about that. And so I think from that standpoint, I'm not really establishing a base flood elevation. What I'm basically doing is I'm applying a technical design standard such that I alleviate myself from establishing that and create myself at an elevation. Thus, I don't have to establish a base flood elevation. Does that make sense?
logically, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I understand where you're going, but we need some documentation along those lines where, that we're building 3 feet above, this section of the code allows us to do that.
Okay, that's
That
what
kind
I
of
was trying to
stuff.
get at, is how do
Okay.
I convey that? So if I say my elevation is X
Yeah,
and I
if
go
you're-
3 feet above
I
that,
think your
I've-
grade's at like 16 or 17 feet, and you guys are proposing
20,
20
yes,
21
okay.
feet, so.
All right, good, that's what I was trying to, because if you read the way the code is written, and I realize we struggle with the code a lot, if you read through this thing, it starts talking about things regarding, incorrect data and technically this, and I'm just like going, I don't want to apply that there's something technically incorrect, but I think we can apply that standard, okay. The next one was the fill in the 100-year floodplain, and it appears that there's some sort of provision in the code that requires some sort of what I call cup per cup, or you basically what you put in, you have to take out.
Well,
and I'm just trying to get my head around this, because how do we meet the flood zone criteria? We fill the lot above 3 feet to get us out of the flood zone, then I've got to turn around and start providing additional compensation for the fill.
Yes.
How does that work?
So you'll have to provide a 1-to-1 ratio of hydraulically or hydrologically equivalent storage for the fill you're placing, and there's also a 1-foot limit of fill across the entire development site.
What I was
So
trying
you
to
have 30 acres, and you're only impacting.
Oh, wait, I mean, I did some quick calculations on that. We're only impacting a little over an acre of the portion of the property in the flood zone.
Right.
Okay, but we're talking about the 100-year flood plain. How do I differentiate how does the county differentiate between the two?
Well, we're only looking at your development site.
Right, but what's the 100-year flood plain versus the flood zone?
They're the same.
Okay, so we're assuming
the
that.
A zone is the 100-year flood.
Okay, that's, all right. So we can look at that. So you're trying to tell me that every project that fills anywhere in an A zone in Walton County, you have to basically provide compensation for any fill that you put in there?
Yes.
Okay. And that's as of 2014?
2011, or no, maybe it was before then.
It may have been 411, but it was.
It
at least in
was,
the
it was
comp plan.
2008 or 9.
2007 was the first time I think it was placed in there.
Because the background of that is,
So if I fill the piece of property and then do a LOMA, I take myself out of the floodplain, thus
well,
it
no,
doesn't exist.
No, there's some information in there. There's some language now. Because what was happening previously was, if you're in the floodplain and you did not get the underlying density, it was 1 per 20. So we were getting all these Clomer Fs and Lomer Fs to bring it out of the floodplain. I'm not in the floodplain, so I get the underlying density. So we went to DCA and we're like, why should we encourage filling the floodplain to get the density? We want to decouple the density from the floodplain. FEMA allows you to build in the floodplain. You just have to meet certain requirements. Well, initially, DCA found it not in compliance because they thought we were, I don't know why, but that's where the compensatory storage and the one-to-one came from. But then, on top of that, there's language in there now saying if you do a Clomer F or if you do a Lomer F, if you do fill it to bring it out of the floodplain, to discourage this, it's going to be 1 per 20.
So expressive.
Where the other, previous is the other way around. We were getting Clomer Fs out the wazoo so people could get their underlying density.
Send in the glossary.
Well, it's better to build in the floodplain than it is to fill and get outside of
Make
it.
sure we.
That's the whole
Properly
point,
cross-reference
is that
that.
we're trying to limit the fill in the floodplain.
Okay.
Yeah, this was, you're right, I think 2007, 2008.
Now,
I recall vividly, it's getting denied by
okay, so I'm gonna throw out some engineering theoretical here, hopefully. If I take the amount of fill I put in and I spread it across my 20 acres, okay, you follow what I'm saying? And I look at what that would do to actually, fill in the floodplain, we're talking about this much, okay?
Right.
Now, if I look at the piece of property adjacent to me, which is just the parcel of land, there's a huge piece of property that's owned by the state. It's 75 acres, and it will never be developed because it's owned by the state. And if I take that same amount of volume that I filled in the floodplain, I spread it across just that 75 acres, we're talking like less than the thickness of a dime. So from a hydrological standpoint, which is mentioned in the code, the amount of fill that we're putting in it's like a drop in it's like throwing a bucket of water in the ocean.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Never
Yeah,
say,
I mean, it makes
never
sense.
say never, though.
Well, that forest could get sold.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's one of the things.
I should start playing the lottery. At that rate. Let's see. So, I mean, and I'm going to assume that other engineers have done this and they basically started digging holes. I've done this once before, but I had to do it in Okaloosa County, and I was in a floodway, and we had to provide the compensation, and we basically just did that. We basically took out a big chunk of a side of a hill, and we cut it out because you have to do that in a floodway.
So you put fill in and took fill out, essentially? Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were on a kind of a floodway, which makes more sense because you're on a river bank, we
Right.
basically exposed some of the river bank and created more room in the floodway and then filled in above it. To do it in Walton County is very difficult because it's the same elevation from one end to the other for a lot of, so we start digging holes, I don't know how much that really, I
There's
don't
also
know.
wetlands in there too.
Well, yeah, it's,
So,
All you have to do is give us the calculations on how much fill that is over the entire site. I mean, has anyone else done it? This project right down the street, Dixie Electric Car at the end of the corner of Mall and 98?
that's being built by Design Build, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
They filled the floodplain there, so they demonstrated that they were less than 1 foot. You just have to show us it's less than 1 foot over the project site.
I can do that. But I'm talking about the compensatory storage where if we fill 1 foot across the site, I have to provide 1 foot of compensation for the fill. So you have to dig, if you take half your site and fill it 1 foot, you gotta take the other half of it and dig it down a foot. Am I missing something here?
Well, I mean,
We haven't had anyone do that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm having a hard time struggling because I'm like going, there's flood zone everywhere in the south end of the
Yeah,
county,
when
and
they're
we're
called
filling it
Johnny
in left and
So, I mean,
right.
we're only
Had to
filling
do that.
like a corner of one building, a parking lot in another,
You're correct, yes.
in the entrance.
Yes, I agree.
Mac, you had a comment?
Jelly Bay PUD, was subject to this requirement, and they met it. And it's on the north shore of the bay. Most of their site was wetlands.
Okay.
But I mean, they figured out how to.
I'm just trying to look for an example of something so I can know how to approach this.
Bill, you got any thoughts on this? From an engineering perspective? No?
No, I'm trying to figure it out too, because if you have to compensate for all that volume, you're gonna have to impact the wetlands even further. And he's already going through a big permitting process impacting.
I've got another.
Do you have to compensate for volume if you're meeting under that?
If you're less than the 1 foot.
Yeah.
I think they're separate items in the code. I have to look.
Yeah,
I mean, we basically take
mean, if you're-
the engineers.
There's
words
the
for it.
sections.
the max.
Like I said, I didn't get up early this morning. I was doing a little research before I came here.
The
just so-
other is just compensation for what,
And
what you're removing.
And
You got
hydrologically equivalent storage volume.
storage volume wise.
Storage volume.
I remember
That's
that.
the term there.
Part of your area is not in the.
So
I
basically,
Flood
don't
zone.
remember.
The majority of my
Like
fill
an
is.
island in the middle of wetlands.
I mean, here's the thing about it, is we use flood maps as a technical design document. It was intended to be used as a way to determine whether or not you need to purchase insurance.
Right.
So, and then and when we originally started doing this back in the day, and they still, to some extent still, these maps are at 1 to 500 scale. I mean, I could be off 20 feet on a, when we used to basically interpolate it and do surveys and draw them on there, we could be off by 20 feet and we'd still be right. So it's kind of hard to basically start going into things where we're doing things to where we can measure to the 100th of an inch, and yet at the same time we could be off by 20%.
Can you provide the volume in one of these uplands here and let this pop off to the mosquito control ditch and we got it met?
That's one of the thoughts I have, yes.
Right here?
Yeah, I do have some pockets of uplands that I could go in there and essentially dig out and create these theoretical holes and then fill them back in if that's what the county would prefer that I do.
I don't know that you're filling them back in. What do you mean filling them back in?
I
You gotta create volume.
No, we dig it out and let it. I mean, when I say fill back in with vegetation, I mean, we're going to clear it, dig it, and then let the vegetation grow back over the top of it.
I think that'll meet that.
I mean, unfortunately, we have these, LDC is written a certain way, which doesn't allow us any leeway to say, no, we're not gonna do that.
It's one of these things where I first encounter this, I'm trying to bring it, and I realize we're not gonna solve it here, it's just I'm trying to figure out how do I implement what has been written here. And sometimes some things get written in the code that sound really cool, but are not that much fun to actually have to deal with.
Well, and a comma and a colon, those all have a significant impacts, and sometimes when it's being written, they don't understand, sometimes people don't understand that.
Essentially limits you to 1 foot of fill across the entire development site and requires storage volume, equivalent storage volume for the amount of fill that you're placing on the site.
Well, they brought a bunch of fill into that ditch electric.
What's that?
And stay out of the 25-foot setback.
Let me tell you, the way your code is written, I mean, it puts you in a box about this big on most of the new development, because we just run out of very suitable developable area in lots of places. But it is what it is, so that's why I'm just trying to figure out the way to work within the system.
Sure.
Okay. Building height. I just have a question. When you're measuring the building height, I think I saw in here it's the mean between the eave and the top of the roof for all these things.
And it's from the existing grade.
I understand that part. That's the easy part. Okay, and I'm not an architect. So if I have a pitched roof, it's from the middle of the roof?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But we made that comment because we were concerned, since you're putting in so much fill, that your building may
You're losing
be
height.
in excess
Oh, I
of.
understand that. Oh, yeah. No, I just need to convey that back to the architect so that he can basically design.
Yeah, we noticed that the architectural drawings, the building is the way he had it measured was from finished grade to the ridge of the structure was 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to gain a few feet by measuring to the mean roof height.
Right.
But you're also going to lose a few feet by measuring from natural grade. So we just wanted to make sure that they understood how that building height needed to be measured, so it didn't create an issue with their architectural plans.
Got it. I understand completely. Okay. It says provide the finished floor elevation for each building on the site plan.
Yeah, it was on one of the other plans, but we'd like to see it on the site plan.
Okay. In number 10, you have a note at the end that's in parentheses, brackets, that says clarification?
Yeah, I mean, they just misadded. If you look at that table and add it up.
Okay, so what you're saying is you want me to declare, that's a note. Most of the ones when you do that, you quote a certain section of the code.
Right. The
Yeah.
math
That's
didn't
ta-
work. I could have
tabulation
quoted,
errors, yeah.
I could have quoted the landscape section, but it's just, the math doesn't add up.
Okay, that's fine, I understand what you're
And
saying.
then I said they didn't include the eastern buffer. It shows north, south,
Mhm.
and west, but didn't include the east.
Okay, and that 25-foot buffer is because it's adjacent to state land?
It doesn't have to be 25 feet.
B10.
It really doesn't matter, I'm so far in on the property, I mean, I'm like
Yeah.
100 and some odd feet away from the, I mean.
And it's wet, so it's gonna be natural, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, a 25-foot isn't required, 10 foot's required.
Mhm. Okay.
And you did see the comment on the west side has to be the 20-foot scenic corridor?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think I showed 10, I think we just
Right.
need to bump, it's not, like I said, I'm 500 feet away from that side, so that's not a problem. A 5-foot sidewalk is required along County Road 393. There's a bike path being proposed there.
On the west side.
On the west side, how do we do that?
In the past, what people have done is once they got to the county commission, because we as staff can't waive it, they asked the county, because I had 2 projects that did this back in the day, and they still haven't built the bike path, but they asked the commission if they could buy the sidewalk out since they were putting in the multi-use path. And in both cases, the commission said yes. Now, neither one of those projects got built, so neither one of them actually paid into the fund, but at that time, the commission voted yes, that you can buy it out, but it's up to them.
So we have to actually, the applicant has to actually bring that up at the Board of County Commission?
Make a written request, and we can put it in the packet too.
Should I make that now?
I would, I mean, Tim, an email suffice, or how would you want that request made?
Yeah, I think an email would be fine, or
With your resubmittal, just a letter?
yeah,
Okay.
with your letter, because the code says you have to do it, so we can't,
Yeah, but-
staff can't waive it.
But you won't get an answer until you make it to the BCC.
True.
So I think that's kind of the dilemma.
Okay, I'll let you guys figure that out. I mean, other municipalities, basically, when they recognize the fact that there's no sidewalk system there, they basically just have a provision in their code or their procedures that just says you pay this much, we paid in, and it just goes to no fund, and we don't have to go to ask anybody.
Well, we have that too, but this particular area doesn't qualify, because if it's in a rural area, the code says if you're in a rural area, then you can, actually, the director has the discretion of waiving it or letting the applicant buy it out.
Right.
But 393 South isn't a rural.
And the rural area is defined in the code and the conference plan, so it's
I guess-
very limited area.
I guess us people from the big city of Fort Walton Beach think that most of Walton County is a rural area.
Nothing south, I don't think anything in South Walton is considered rural according to that definition.
Interesting, okay. You made a comment here, residential streets shall have a sidewalk on both sides, and then you make, subsequent to that, you say a road name shall be given for the entry road. This is not a road, it's a driveway into an apartment complex. So,
I didn't get anything from GIS, but typically
Still gonna
GIS
need it.
will,
what's that?
It's still gonna need to be.
they'll look at it as a road and they'll want you to name it. Now, I didn't get any
Okay,
comments from them.
why would I name let's put it this way. If I took this apartment complex and had the ability to push it all the way up to 393, then my driveway would be about, 30 to 40 feet long to get into the parking lot, and that's it. I wouldn't name that.
No.
Okay, so there's no reason why, because of the fact that it's longer on the plan, it qualifies it as a road. I mean.
What's the code requirement for that, Sam? Didn't the code require that?
Yeah,
The ordinance.
2006-17, it's for 911 addressing purposes. They're gonna have to give you buildings, numbers, and names.
But the address would be 393, it would not necessarily be another road.
Perhaps, it depends on how I haven't looked at your plans, but it depends on how the buildings are positioned.
But basically, that's something GIS would handle.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they
I'll take it
they
up to
may
them and-
agree with you, but typically, they require a road name.
Okay, so we name it for addressing purposes, it doesn't necessarily make it a road.
No, I agree.
I mean, I don't, you see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't see the necessity.
It doesn't mean it's public. It could
Yeah,
be
but
a
if you
private
call it a
road.
roadway, then it starts triggering the things like sidewalks. I mean, I don't mind,
Right.
if you want to call it, I mean, believe it or not, I did a townhome project in Okaloosa County where we had a road going to townhomes on either side, and they didn't give it a name, and they actually used the primary street that we came off of. So it's kind of hit or miss as to how 911 does that kind of stuff, so.
I will take it up with them, and if they require it, that's their,
Well, I mean, we
that's
can
their
do that,
deal.
but I just don't want to have to make a sidewalk on both sides of that entrance drive.
Well, and that's the decision we need to make. I mean,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
because
you
even if
gotta-
it's a driveway, well, the code does say street, all residential streets. Does that include a driveway? I mean, I made that
Well,
And what is
because
the
they're only
pedestrian
showing.
access to get to
Let's back up.
393
I
to
do
the
provide,
bike
I
path?
provide sidewalk
just back
on
up.
one
Okay.
side of there, so I am
Everybody
providing
talk,
the.
everybody, we need to talk
Sorry.
one at a time, so Karen can take down the minutes, so, go ahead, Matt.
What we're trying to create in South Walton is a walkable environment. This is a 100% residential project. These people are gonna wanna get to the beach, they're gonna wanna bike to the beach, they're gonna bike to shopping, and recreation. We need to maximize the opportunities for pedestrians.
And I'm providing a multi-use path from the apartment buildings to 393, just not on both sides of the road,
Okay?
of the entrance drive. So I'm accomplishing exactly what you just said. But I don't see the necessity to have sidewalks on both sides of a street, of this drive.
What we can do is we can review that, we'll look at that, I mean, depending on what GIS does and so forth. we'll
Here's
look at it.
here's my biggest dilemma. I'm having to span wetlands.
Right.
Okay, so if you go to get a wetland permit, the first thing they say is, I want to do avoidance and minimization. And the first thing you're gonna say is, why do you need a sidewalk on both sides of the street?
Well, we assume, maybe erroneously, that you would buy the other side out.
If that's what we need to do, we'll buy that out. It's just, like I said, we're getting into some semantics here as far
But
as.
as far as making a determination whether a driveway is going to require sidewalk, it's something we need to talk about and look at it real thoroughly, not in the middle of this meeting here. We can look at that a little more carefully. We have,
Yeah, it does say right in the comp plan, the new residential developments, in the scenic 38 corridor must have sidewalks on both sides of new residential streets.
Like I said, but it's not, it's
and the
not.
key, I think the key
not a
there
street.
was what its streets mean.
Yes, yes, that's what I'm trying to get to the
Yeah,
definition.
gotcha.
Okay, let's see, then the only other comment I had was under the environmental department. There was a comment made in there about the drainage plan shows stormwater facilities in the 25-foot secondary buffer protection zone. And I didn't, I looked at the plans, I didn't see that. So I didn't know what I was missing. And I don't know who made,
I did, I'll look at it again,
we can look at it after the meeting.
yeah,
Some of the back slopes maybe? I don't.
I think some of the sloping goes right up to it,
Yeah?
and there was some concern there, but I don't know if, I don't remember if there was anything.
Okay, as long as that's what we were referring to, I can go back and double check that, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure I tried to
I
stay
think
out
we were
of it.
looking at the grading plane, and it shows some of the grading going, not a lot, but going a little bit into the 25-foot buffer.
I'll go back and.
I think that's what we were looking at yesterday.
Okay.
That's one reason you got it late. We peer reviewed this project yesterday afternoon. We're supposed to peer review it before we send out our comments.
Okay.
Mark, any more questions?
No, I've already talked to Bill. I understand Sammy's comment.
Okay. All right, I'll expect more from you, so.
Like I said, I did my research. It's as Bill and I were talking on the phone, this is a tricky, unusual project.
Right,
because of
right.
its
I'm
way.
just joking with you.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Well, hey, we appreciate your efforts. All right, anybody from the public have any questions on C38 Place? Anybody from the public? All right, seeing none, let's switch to the TRC.
I'll make a motion to approve the project pending resolution of all outstanding issues and comments and move it forward to the planning commission.
Okay, motion by Tim Brown,
Second.
second by Renee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're adjourned. And we have a meeting about the citizen serve stuff, like right now. Who else?
Like about 30 minutes ago.
30 minutes ago.
Make a case that
You, Sam?
Letitia.
Yes.
because those aren't.
And